The next speaker is a member of Knesset Tzipi Livni. Tzipi Livni is the leader of Hatnuah in the Zionist camp, together with MK Herzog, who serve as the opposition in the state of Israel today. Tzipi carried out different positions during her civil service in diverse content. She was Minister of Justice twice, the Minister of Foreign Affairs once, and even the Minister for Regional Development, among her many other positions. And for many years, she's been involved in the main issue of where are we leading the state of Israel in the near future. Member of Knesset Livni, please, the floor is yours. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Udi. Hello, everyone. I can see that we have distinguished audience here, to people who came from overseas, together with whom we try to advance the realization of our shared values, as well as the security of the State of Israel. And I would like to thank Amos Yadlin not only for organizing this conference and for providing us the opportunity to discuss these important issues, but also for the work that is currently done, which is an in-depth work that is so missing in the government, but is done here in the INSS. Look, ladies and gentlemen, this conference is extremely important in my view. And indeed, one by one, heads of parties and senior officers in the State of Israel will come to this stage and present their positions. And I would like to spare you of something. The choice is not between 6 or 7 different ways, for the State of Israel, like the number of heads of parties that would discuss matters here, but rather between 2 basic fundamental ways that the State of Israel has to opt one from. And I have to say that that is very convenient that after me, as I understand, Minister Bennett will be speaking, because at the end of the day, these are the 2 ways. The one I'm going to present to you, our way, and the other way that he presents, being the representative of the Jewish home, the group that represents the settlements and the annexation. And these are the 2 ways. One way is separating from the Palestinians, protecting the State of Israel as a Jewish, democratic, secure state in the land of Israel, but not across the entire territory, and that of annexation, which is destructive, that would mix us with the Palestinian population forever and would not secure the State of Israel as a Jewish state. It's very important to understand this against the backdrop of the entrance of a new American president to the White House. And I'm going to surprise you, because I see this as an opportunity, perhaps even a great opportunity. Well, in general, it's good in life to look at things soberly and to always look for the opportunities, because if Israel can truly do whatever it wishes to do, as everyone keeps saying now, then it's high time that the State of Israel decides what it is that exactly wants to do. Enough for the shows, no more excuses. There's no one to accuse within the government. This is a right-wing government. There's no one to blame in Washington. This is the opportunity to decide for the State of Israel, 50 years after 1967, what do we truly want to do with ourselves? What kind of a country do we want, and what do we want to do with the territories, namely with Judea and Samaria? So if in America they call this the post-truth era, in the State of Israel, we have to start with the truth era, the clear-cut, lucid truth, and to look and choose between 2 different options. Indeed, there's a group that says its own truth, and I assume that Minister Bennett will say his truth. He wants annexation, and I disagree. He will start with the sea area. As a side remark, I have to say that astonishes me, how the people who call those who signed the Oslo Agreement, call them the criminals, rely on the very same division of Oslo of ABC. This will bring about a total annexation. There's no annexation of territory without the people who inhabit it, and there aren't people who have no citizenship or right of voting rights. So, because I do not want to swallow 2.5 million Palestinians more, I believe that this option, is going to be destructive for the State of Israel, being the state of the Jewish people. But why do we speak about the era of truth? Because we have the understanding right, the right people who understand that annexation is impossible, that understand that would undermine the security of the State of Israel, would undermine its legitimacy, and ultimately lead at the end of the day to a country. This right wing know the truth, but so far they've used Washington as being the bad police officer. But now that's gone. Now it's only us. Just like my kids say, would they, decide, we decide our own fate. And that's exactly the decision that needs to be made. And I do hope that this truth will be spoken by the government, or they should know that they are leading the State of Israel to a place that we shouldn't be in. And that may, sort of really saddens me, because in the last few months we saw that there are those who know the truth in the government with respect to the arrangement law. We saw the Prime Minister saying that this is a law that would bring us to the Security Council and might lead us to the criminal court in The Hague. He ended saying this to the cabinet. He left the government discussion hall, went to the Knesset and voted for the same law that, according to his own doctrine and philosophy, would be so detrimental to the security of the State of Israel. And this is why it is very clear today, and I intentionally mentioned the arrangement law, that the settlements do not contribute to the security of the State of Israel. And let's talk about security. First of all, we live in a state where the security people are a lot more pragmatic than the civil government, and security officers, generals, military people, all side for parting with the Palestinians in order to maintain our security, and they are right. This is the national security interest of the highest order. Now, I do not think that security belongs to generals only, and I do not think that it belongs to men only, and I disagree with the assumption that it belongs to the right only. And those politicians who use the word security in order to advance the settlement project, well, I have to say this truth to them. Those who provide security to the State of Israel is the IDF. It is not families with children who decide to inhabit some isolated hilltop because, according to their views and their goals, they want to prevent the separation in the future. It's got nothing to do with security. It's got all to do with ideology and vision, which is not the vision and the perception of the majority of the State of Israel, not even according to the research conducted by the INSS that attests to the fact that the majority of the public in the State of Israel wants to keep Israel as the state of the Jewish people and does not want to annex the territories and wants to part with the Palestinians. Now, it is possible to mobilize the world to support the security of the State of Israel. And it's possible to do that in any point of time in which Israel would have to defend itself against terror. But you cannot mobilize the world to support another isolated settlement upon an isolated hilltop outside of the fence, definitely not on private land. We have to understand that. That's impossible. And though all those who mix between the two, the world's against us, where they're not allowing us to actually build a prefab on private land, and therefore do not allow us to defend ourselves, that's actually to delude the public. You cannot gain the support of the world in the settlements because it's not perceived as part of what the State of Israel is saying, that it is ostensibly in favor for the two-state solution. And in general, the whole security conception has to be a combination between the military and the political, the diplomatic. There's not one without the other. And you don't have just one, diplomatic idea without a military perception or a military operation. You have to bind the two. And here I'd like to say a few words in the strategic context about protective edge. We're just days before the publication of the report, and I believe the full report should be made public. The public, is entitled to know what happened so that we can rectify our mistakes. But what needs to be rectified and corrected is far greater than the tunnels, because even now there are tunnels in Gaza, just like we had them before Protective Edge. And the solution is not yet another operation. I do not see the cabinet, convening to decide upon a new operation in Gaza because there are tunnels there. Today, the solution that is required is the one that I initiated during Operation Protective Edge, and that is actually that wall that is supposed to make the entrance of military forces into Gaza redundant. So the problem of the tunnels is not the strategic one. The main omission has to do with the strategic decisions that the government needs to make and hasn't made so far. The cabinet in the State of Israel, ladies and gentlemen, neither the one before it nor the last one, have no policy with respect to Gaza. And the IDF and the security establishment are the ones going to the cabinet asking, please tell us what your policy is, so that we can prepare our own plans in line with the comprehensive policy of the government. Hence, we are working on micro tactics, from putting out fires, one to leading to the other. And the questions that the State of Israel has to decide upon when it comes to Gaza is, what do we want of Gaza? Is Gaza a part of the one-state perception, the greater Israel, including Gaza? Shuli Moalem, member of Knesset Shuli Moalem, that drafted a bill that will return to the places that were evacuated in the northern Samaria. Will she prepare a new bill to rebuild the Katif bloc? Is Gaza a part of the Palestinian state that we want to negotiate with? And we want to actually reach a situation in which Gaza will be demilitarized? Is it a part of a perception of three states with the Hamastan of Gaza with its own port? You cannot hold a serious discussion and only deal with the tunnels without deciding what the strategy is, the real comprehensive strategy of the State of Israel with respect to this plot of land. And that is also expressed and has been expressed in Operation Protective Edge. In Operation Protective Edge, we could end the operation with a resolution of the Security Council that was already written and agreed upon by the entire world, and which determined rehabilitation in return for demilitarization, and determined that the whole world would operate to prevent terror and against Hamas, and also determined that we'll resume direct negotiations not with Hamas, which is a terrorist Islamist radical organization with whom there's no hope for peace, but rather with Abu Mazen without preconditions. And the representative of the U.S. in the UN waited online and asked, is Israel in agreement with that? And Netanyahu said no. No, not because of the demilitarization or counterterrorism, which is excellent, but rather because of the return, to direct negotiations. That for those who want to advance the idea of the two-state solution, that is a positive thing. But for those who try to prevent such decisions and resolutions, that is negative. And a serious state cannot conduct itself in such a way. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, it's high time to decide. There are two separate ways in our national ways, as it were. Either a national state or a 50-50 state. Half Arab, half Jewish, a state that would, encounter violence and would not be the state of the Jewish people. My ways is very clear. This is a Jewish democratic state. It is the national home for the Jewish people, and all their citizens, its citizens, are of equal rights. These are the two sides of the equation. It's very clear. It's stated in the Declaration of Independence. For every Likudnik or Charutnik, anyone who belongs to the Likud party or the Charut party relates to this sentence. This is why Benny Begin presented a bill a week ago that argues that let's decide that Jewish and democratic means the state of the Jewish people, which whose all citizens are of equal rights. But the government objected. The government objects to this very clear perception or concept of Zionism because of one word: equality. This government is not willing to accept the fact that the state of Israel will be, equality is a Jewish value a lot before being a democratic value, that it would be a country of equal rights. And why do they object to that? Because they know that if they adopt the annexation policy along with the concept of this country being a country of equal rights, that would actually force them to give the same voting rights to those 2.5 million Palestinians. Hence, the annexation is not a technical matter of more territory or less territory, but it's mostly less democracy, less values, less law, and less of the rule of law. And this is why they undermine the Supreme Court and the security advisors and the attorney generals and the gatekeepers, because they all hoist the flag of the constitutional values of the State of Israel, and they want a Wild West to take place here, which is east of the separation fence. Now, these who wanted, because of ideological reasons, joined in the government those to whom the rule of law is not that convenient for them because of personal corruption and other reasons. Those who denounce the police investigators, those who try to dwarf the Attorney General. And corruption is not a matter of left or right, but it's a matter of Israel being a state that abides by the law based on its values, in Israel that deserves to have public officials who do not think about themselves only, but the public they serve. So that's the state of Israel should be, and that's how it has to be. And what a prime minister, a responsible prime minister, needs to do in his coming meeting with the president of the state of Israel is have a conversation that is totally different than the one that I believe will take place. And such a prime minister should go to the president of the United States of America and say, look, I believe the fact that Israel should be a Jewish, democratic, safe country, and I will never give up on an iota of its security. And for us to do that, I'm willing to take steps that are definitely going in that direction. Whether there is a partner or not, that's what I want to do. But I need the United States on our side when it comes to the most important strategic matters. And we can get that because we did receive it from President Bush in Lebanon, the very same letter that determines, according to my request, that establishing the Palestinian state would be the solution for the refugees, namely no right of return, otherwise there won't be any end of conflict. The same principle that determines that the settlement blocks will be a part of the state of Israel. And we now need to ask, another element to this letter. We need to actually fixate the concept that the future Palestinian state would be a demilitarized state. The Palestinians have already given their agreement to that because at the moment, as long as that is not agreed upon, we see more and more resolutions in international fora that undermine the very basic elements. We saw the recent UN resolution in what I thought was really terrible. That was the UNESCO decision that undermines or questions the connection between the Jewish people and the holiest of places. And these things have to be agreed upon. And what can actually emerge from this meeting, and with this I'll end, the state of Israel, which has the United States at its side when it comes to the most basic interests, which are also American interests, because nobody wants to have another terror country here. There are enough of them in the region. A state of Israel that can say, we take measures vis-a-vis the Palestinians on the ground, including the freezing of the settlements and the giving them the ability to build in Area C, and receiving from the moderate Arab world that understands that Israel is not its enemy, but rather Iran and ISIS and all the Islamist radical elements in the region, that is willing to take measures toward the state of Israel, but will not do it without Israel actually taking the first steps toward the Palestinians, and that is the deal. We will be able to give in such a situation, when we know that the U.S. is on our side on those substantial matters, will be more positive toward the initiative of the Arab League to take steps on the ground. The moderate Arab countries will go our way, and we will be able to strike that mega deal. So if I talk about the opportunities, well, when the new president-elect says that he believes that he will be able to strike that historical deal, well, there's only one deal. And I wish us all, therefore, a great success. Thank you very much.